Hey everybody, I think everything's good to go. Who else is here? Hey Ish, hi Ian, hopefully you can hear me. There we go. Hello? No? Nobody can hear me? Hello Scott, hi Anthony. 1 second. Well, everybody jumps in here. I needed to close the door. There was a bunch of residual sound coming from outside, so. All right. We'll give it a minute or so, let some more people trickle in, and then we can kind of get started. I don't actually time for a beverage. I do have just a teeny bit. I've been powering away on some work, so I'm like, I just poured it. So happy Friday, everybody. What was I gonna say? I failed to make myself a list of topics to go over, so I'm gonna kind of be flying by the seat of my pants. I know there's a couple things that we're going to talk about, and I'm going to show some stuff, and then we'll kind of move into probably questions and answers. While you guys are waiting around, as always, if you noticed the link at the top, the pinned link, at the top, that's the giveaway link. You can find out what we're giving away. If you go to that, please fill that out. Yeah, we are going to talk about cubes, Ian. Going to discuss some cubage and other pen holder topics. Yeah, Eric, this is a what is that? Bon Maman jelly preserve container. They make great glasses. Yeah, I do have. Like, we went over like the ink a little bit, and I touched on retro. I touched on I touched on some of the fountain pen stuff last month. When I talked about the ink turning 10 this year. But I think it gives us an opportunity to kind of go into depth this month. A little, not into depth, but just touch on it a little bit more. So, hey, Sean. Yeah, so we're going to kind of go that. I know, Bob, I'm terrible about it. I usually try to take about 15, 20 minutes on Friday to write stuff down. And today I've been pretty busy. Basically, since I got here, I had a decent list of things that I wanted to get done, catching up on stuff. And so I just kind of put the nose to the grindstone and got a bunch of stuff knocked out today earlier on. And then I looked down and realized what time it was. And I was like, I got to sit up. And I did make a list and figured, what the heck, you guys can, we can run with it like this. So, okay, everybody, we're going to officially start it. Welcome into the May Livestream with Karis Penco. I think everybody here is an old timer and not a first timer. However, if you're a first timer and I'm just failing to realize that I don't recognize your name, welcome. This is something we do once a month. Try to do it on the second Friday of the month at 3 p.m. Arizona time. I was lackadaisical in getting out the message via the newsletter until like yesterday because I completely forgot that it was this week. But you can kind of mark it in your calendars if you have one that around the second Friday of every single month at 3 p.m. You you can join us for our live stream. And we usually go over relevant topics of the stuff that's either recently come out or is about to come out. And then we also usually have a question and answer. We do a giveaway. I try to do a giveaway every single month, especially now. So that's kind of like a breakdown if you're new. If not, that's all, you're used to the whole, all the shenanigans, and we're going to kind of go, we're going to dive right into it today. Talk about fountain pens first. So, I'm trying to think the best way to talk about fountain pens kind of without, not like giving anything away, but there's still some stuff that we haven't really decided on. So I guess the easiest way to talk about it, okay, let me hold on a second. People are putting stuff in the, is there a mod that makes it possible to post the cap and ink? Hold on to that question, James. No, there is not. There's not a mod without really, without dramatically changing the backside of the ink with the internal threads. It's not something that pen was never designed to boast. Dan designed it without that in mind. So, and then can we talk about the one pen material that y'all refused to make out a pen out of a few times before the end of the stream? Oh, that's a dig at some of you guys that like to bring up zirconium. Although Ishmael decided to turn it into a micarta joke, which is also something. Funnily, there's a whole bunch of materials we could talk about with that. I think G10 is another one that people have asked for a whole bunch. Yeah, so let's not focus on that. I'm going to talk about. Okay, I'm not going to be distracted. I'm going to cover up the chat real quick here, and then kind of talk about fountain pens specifically. As you guys know, obviously, we've discontinued the majority of we've discontinued the K series stuff. And we're kind of at the end. Actually, we're not at the end. We have a whole bunch of silver ones left. So if you know somebody who needs a pen, we got silver render Ks flying out of here like crazy. You're more than welcome to buy some of those. Hint, hint. But that's kind of I don't want to say we deleted that pen, because at some point in time, we are going to list just two versions of the K series. We're going to add the black and the tumbled versions of the K series in aluminum back in the future, when we are out of all the other colors, the silver and all the rest of them. So there will be, that pen will like continue to exist only in those two finishes, just black and just tumbled. For a couple of reasons, it'll be both the Render K and the Fountain K will come back. Size reasons, we still have I don't want to say corporate clients. We still have like bulk purchases of those pens that happen. They make good traditional graduation style gifts and stuff like that. So having black and tumbled in those in limited supply all year round, it's going to be just kind of, it's an option that pen will still be able to kind of live on in that means. But the big shift is going to be away from, I don't want to say that size of pen, but that size of nib. We're going to predominantly consolidate all of our current fountain pens are going to be number 6 size nibs, and then going forward, the stuff that we prototype and manufacture are going to be fountain pens that only feature number 6 nibs for the foreseeable future. Just to cut anybody out, like I don't have to cover this later on. We won't we don't have any plans to pursue number 8 size nibs until there's some type of um, upward tick in the economy / pen market specifically. Um, the initial cost of entry into that, and then the subsequent cost of pens that would require would just doesn't make sense for us to do right now. So before anybody asks about number 8 nibs, we don't have plans to do that in the short term. That could come down the road if things, turn around or something like that. But right now we're going to kind of pull things in, retract a little bit, focus on the number 6 nibs, the fountain pens that we currently manufacture that take number 6 nibs, and then move forward with prototyping the next pen, which we're actively doing right now. Josh and I sat down a couple times last week and talked about that. Last week or 2 weeks ago, I don't remember. We sat down and kind of looked at overall like aesthetic designs and talked about like functional things that we're thinking about doing with that. And so that's going to kind of be, so we are like, we're not like shrinking the amount of fountain pens we necessarily produce, because we're actively working towards a new fountain pen. Hopefully, I don't have a timeline on it. It's kind of, just he's working on. Him and I sat down. We talked about specifics with like, hey, what do we want it to kind of look like? At least try to make it look like. What's our starting point in terms of the feel, quote unquote, of the pen, and then he's doing modeling in software first, and then prototyping, physical prototyping is the next step after that. He's already doing the software stuff, so that will. So it's not like it's going slow. It's just in the past when we've really dove into prototyping stuff, especially the last 2 pens, the modal and the Vertex, it was like we like got into it when we initially prototyped those pens and put a lot of time and effort into it. Now it's kind of like based off of our staffing numbers and kind of how many more hats all of us are wearing. It's kind of like, okay, I have an hour and a half to work on this now, and then I'm not going to have another 2 hours until 2.5 weeks from now. So it could take longer for us to prototype that. You brought up the reactor pins, and I do think there is a possibility that we potentially resurrect that pen in some way, shape, or form, with some redesigns. We've talked about that in the past, but I think it might be something that Bill and I discuss. We're gonna have a meeting, I think, next week about some planning stuff, and I think that might be something that we could potentially do. I don't know the specifics on it, but it's definitely something that I want to sit down and talk to him about. So we might see that happening. And since I just said we're going to go away from using number 5 nibs, if we did resurrect that, it would be a change to where we did some tweaks in terms of diameter wise of the body of the pen, mainly, not the cap. We would make it a little wider enough that it would potentially take a number 6 nib instead of a number 5. Just because that's kind of where we're leaning towards. So I think that's definitely something that we're considering. I think there's an opportunity for us there. But again, it's going to be one of those things where Bill and I are going to talk about it and kind of run some numbers and see. That might be an easier to accomplish thing than potentially coming out with a brand new pen. But yeah, that's kind of where we are in terms of, so the focus in terms of production and releases between now and the end of the year is really going to kind of be on the ink. I'm getting inks ready to send out to the anodizer so that we get some new colors in. so that we can prep for that, and then when they come back, we'll kind of do a relaunch of, not a relaunch. We're just making minor tweaks in terms of how we sell that pen. So yeah, that's going to be sometime this summer, I would imagine, in the closer, like early summer rather than late summer. So like not in August, probably sometime in June or July. And then refocus on Decograph and Vertexes. Hopefully we can get some more non-metal ones in. Get the resin grips for the Vertexes back in stock, and then keep those in stock longer, and not have as many releases as we potentially did in the past, but definitely have some of those available at all times. And you're going to see us move, specifically with the Decograph and the Vertex. We're going to probably move to we've been cutting down the sizes of the releases that we've been doing, and that will continue to move forward. We'll continue to do that with the fountain pens specifically, just so that we don't have a whole bunch of them sitting around for 8 months. One of the struggles has been to get our wholesale partners back. That was one of the things that for a long time necessitated having large batches of production pens available, and with not having those partners, or having very few currently, it just kind of means that we're going to have to restructure our inventory levels in terms of what we keep on stock and in stock and stuff like that. So just so you know, the batch sizes will be smaller. There's going to be some changes in terms of both the Decograph and the Vertex going forward, the resin versions of those. Not all of them will. So we're going to change the way that we sell them in terms of you'll be able to purchase them without the metal box or with a metal box. A lot of them won't. Most of them will not have custom covers done. We're going to make I want to say generic. We're going to make a Decograph specific cover that's lasered, and then a Vertex specific cover that's lasered for most of the releases. A few of them will have specific like branding done on them, but you'll be able to purchase them without the box, just in a cardboard box, for a reduced price, kind of like we did with the Tequila Sunrise Vertex. Because a lot of people were like, man, I have all these boxes and they're awesome and everything, but they take up a ton of space and I don't want to throw them away. And so we totally understand that. It could be pretty unnecessary for us to continue to put those boxes, make you have a box that you potentially won't use. So if you want to buy one for a specific release, that will be an option, but you don't have to purchase it that way. So that's going to be kind of one of the things we do with the resin specific pens. So I'm going to switch the camera real quick, and then we're going to wrap up the fountain pen stuff with I know we've talked about the Ultim Decograph before. I don't remember if I showed it off last month or at any point in time. Retro, he'll still be involved in the lids in the ones we do brand, just because he and I have a really good working relationship. We just haven't had any recently, so I have one of them upcoming that he and I we'll need to get together on as soon as we get grip sections back in. He and I will sit down and start talking about the one that I have that's kind of ready to go. But then we'll go with it from there. So he'll still be involved. He's not leaving. He'll still be involved with that artwork. He'll still be involved with coin club stuff. Yeah, so don't. He didn't lose his job. All right, so this is the Ultim Decograph. I am going to say that this should hopefully is going to be ready to go next week. I don't know what day specifically. We have bodies done. We have a bunch. I think most of, if not all of the caps have been sanded. They just need to be polished. And then I think about a third of the bodies have been sanded. And they will still need to be polished. But the polishing process is actually quick on these. We're not hand polishing these. These are actually being taught because of how hard this plastic is. We're sanding them, and then we're using the same polishing media that we use to battle wear the anodized aluminum pins. That same media actually polishes these if we leave them in there for about 4 hours. So yeah, they're going to be basically, you could call them machine polish for lack of a better word. I just threw this gray on this one. Rather than putting the black that we normally show off this material in. I like the contrast of the gray. This specific gray looks really good with it. I don't know what specific color options we're going to have when we come out with this. I would imagine it will be black for sure. Honestly, we might release it with just whatever we have in stock. You can add it to this one instead of doing like curated colors. This gray will be available because I've got like 100 of this gray, shiny black, matte black, tumbled aluminum, brass, copper. I don't know. I think silver. Those are the current colors that I have. I don't have enough of the blue ones to do the blue for this right now. I'd have to send out another batch for that. And then we might add some colors. The plan is for this one to be a straight to the website release, just because we do have a decent amount of these. We don't expect to sell out of these. We want to keep this as an option for this pen, like we plan on doing with the Vertex, the Ultim Vertex. We like this material. We think it adds, like it's durable enough to be in kind of our main, if we're our main line of pens, along with aluminum and brass and copper. And realistically, Delrin, we'd like to keep the Delrin in stock kind of all year round. There might be times where like they go out of stock because they sell a little bit faster towards the end of a run, and we haven't been able to keep up on it. But realistically, we'd like to keep the Ultim and the Delrin stuff in stock on the Vertex and on the Decograph moving forward. So that's kind of the next fountain pen release. I'm hoping that we have it by next week. I think that's totally doable based off of where we're at on those pens. And like I said, we may add, currently we're going to have 5 or 6 hardware options, and I may add I may send some out to be some hardware out to be anodized that we don't currently have, but haven't really decided. It's hard to get a picture for what this would look like with like brown and olive, because I don't really have those in the shop. Same with red. But I think realistically, I think the Ultim stuff, it's a strange color, and I think it goes really well with almost any anodized aluminum color. I don't think it looks bad with any color match. Some of the colors look better with the bright dip, and some of them look better in matte finish. In terms of pairing it with the yellow amber of the Ultim. So we might only have the blue available in shiny blue and not available in matte blue just because it looks better, or vice versa, or the red might only be available in one. It's really difficult to get good looking shiny olive now. The matte finish is the best finish that we get on that olive. So if we do olive hardware, it will be matte finished hardware. So that's kind of where we're at on that one, on the fountain pen stuff. Like, it's kind of still in flux. We're going to narrow stuff out. I imagine it's going to be a topic we'll recircle back to potentially next month, if definitely in July. I imagine we'll have some stuff kind of more figured out, and we'll talk more about it then. Just because it's kind of still something that Bill and I are keeping on the front burner in terms of like stuff that we're actively talking about, is the fountain pens that we currently have, because we've been so focused heavily on the modal and that pen, and we feel like we need to kind of like course correct a little bit and pull back onto fountain pens and where we need to focus to get our core lineup back in stock, and just focus more on that. Like, it's been months of the modal, and we needed to have that kind of push and everything for that pen to kind of pay off on, in terms of the amount of R&D and time and money that we spent on that one. So now it's kind of, we're shifting back towards fountain pens, and we're shifting back towards pen holders / desktop accessories. So somebody previously talked about, hey, can we talk about cubes? I think Ian or Colin, one of you guys did. Sorry, I don't want to mix you up just because you're related. I can't remember which one it was I read. Ian, you said, can we talk about cubes? And then who was it that just asked? Scott asked about 8Ks and 4Ks. So let's discuss, and this is kind of going to be a little bit of a discussion, so you guys could kind of throw some stuff out there. Let's discuss pen holders specifically. Brought it up. I'm bringing it up again because we did have the Win It Wednesday not this past Wednesday, the Wednesday prior, about that kind of featured that heavily. And hold the blackout modal thing till the Q&A section. We can circle back around that, but I want to kind of tie this up and then we can move on. So we did the pocket. So we'll go back to this screen so you don't have to stare at my face. We did the pocket cube, which is kind of, I don't want to say it's an afterthought. It's something that we were asked to produce for someone else, and then that didn't really pan out, and we just decided, hey, why don't we make some of these anyway? It's a good idea. It's kind of cool. It's kind of handy. I keep scissors and stuff and other things in the slots on the one cube that I do have on my desk. So I use my slots for non-pen stuff all the time. But this allows for, a bigger diameter pen or marker, which we do have several of them. We use them for the laser in the back. I use markers all the time when I'm shipping boxes out and when I'm marking in inventory labels. And outside of the standard sized Sharpie, the larger markers that I use just don't fit in the pen cube slots. And so we had already planned to do this. These were already being done when I sent out that survey about pen holders. But the reason that I sent out the survey about the pen holders is more because, um, we've seen a significant decrease in the amount of cubes um, that we sell. Now, it's not something that we sell a lot of, but we used to sell last year. We averaged 1 or 2 of them a week, and that's without putting them in any of the newsletters or featuring them on any of our social media or anything like that. So they would just kind of slowly sell. People would see them here or there, come to the website. They owned one and they had somebody in their life that they thought they needed one, and so they bought one for somebody else. So we've seen like a significant like decrease in terms of the last like 3 or 4 months of cubes being sold. Like I think we're all the way down to like 1 a month. And we decided to do this without really. Bill like decided to do this before he knew that I'd kind of looked into that and found that to be the case. And it kind of got me thinking about like maybe it's because people see the cube and it's just not, it's too big. I don't need a 9 pen holder. I don't like the way it looks. It's expensive type of stuff. So that's why I kind of did the survey to kind of figure out, hey, like what do the people that purchase things from us need or want in terms of a pen holder? Weirdly enough, the majority of the people, like nearly 40%, were like, the 9-hole cube is the perfect thing that we need. But a 4-pen holder was the second most answered response. Outside of a bunch of people said in the comments, I don't use a pen holder of that style. I only use pen trays. And I would imagine most of those people that answered that, just hazarding a guess, have a lot of non-metal pens, and they're probably many or all of them are fountain pens. So that's kind of where we're at with that one. I don't know if we're going to bring back the 8K and the 4K. That's definitely a possibility. I do think we're going to experiment with different sizes of cubes, both smaller and slightly larger than the 9-hole, because like the next answer, it was like 37% said 9-hole, 27% said 4-hole, and then just over 20%, not over 20%, and then another like, yeah, it was about 30. I should just bring it up. I don't know why I'm guessing. I have the numbers like right here. It's dumb for me to guess. 1 second. Let's see what people said. Yeah, so it's 31% 9-hole, 26%, 27% 4-hole, and then 20% 15. And then right behind that was, well, not right behind that, the next most popular answer, actually it was just below 20%, was I just use a coffee cup, which I figured a whole bunch of people would say that. So we're going to experiment with some more things. We're going to have more mega cubes available. I know it's weird for us to talk about, hey, but we sell. I mean, we've sold out of those every single time we've had them, which is crazy to me, because of the size and the cost and the space required to have them. But we have sold every single one of those. And so we'll have a smaller one. So we're going to look at some smaller sized cubes and some larger sized cubes. The main thing is we are going to attempt to anodize cubes again. Next week, I'm going to send out some standard 9-hole cubes, some business card cubes, and some of the pocket cubes. We're going to do black first. So that's going to be the first one we attempt, the first color we attempt to do next week. Now, we probably won't get those back for for a week after that, but the plan is to do that, and then and then look at what we get and kind of go from there. We don't sell a Karis coffee cup. We should actually see if we can get some custom one mains made. I think that's more just because Bill doesn't drink coffee. He just drinks soda. And so even though the rest of us drink coffee, it's not one of the things that we've kind of looked into even having. Brian, part of the reason that we don't, I've discussed this up before, but just to touch on that, when we did the K-Mod, we were doing that K-Mod specifically for the anniversary of the Moonlander. And both Bill and myself, and I think G as well, but definitely Bill and myself, have really good relationships with Dan from Good Made Better. And he's asked Bill's advice on some stuff, and he's asked my advice on some stuff. And it's just not we think that his design speaks for itself, and that's not something that we would ever. We agree. I agree with you. Ultimately, the answer is I agree with you. The single pen holder really should be something like the Penwell thing, and because he's done it already, it's not something that we would ever attempt to kind of step into. It's just very specific. He's kind of brought it back, and it would feel a little bit unethical for us to pursue that. With making other pen holders is different. So no, and so yes, I agree with you. Ultimately, Brian, that's exactly it. It's the design speaks for itself. I think that he did a great job in terms of the stuff that he's done with that, and so. I do think his single pen holder is the best on the market. All right, let's see. 20 hole. I don't know if we go up to as big as 20. It's definitely going to be, whatever we do is probably going to be continue on the 3s. I think we're going to scale up to a 15, the next size that we're going to go up to. And then we might scale down to a 4 if we don't bring the 4Ks and 8Ks back. But we're thinking about bringing the 4Ks and 8Ks back. All right, so that kind of talks about the cubes. Let me go ahead and mention one more time. Please, if you guys haven't, fill out the pin form that is in this, that is pinned at the top of the chat. That way you're entered into a chance to win the pocket cube that's sitting over there. Before anybody asks, I don't know if anybody here is international. It doesn't matter. We'll cover the shipping costs to wherever you're located. The giveaway is open to everybody. It doesn't matter what item we're giving away. And so now let's go ahead and open it up for questions and answers. So question and answers. So if you guys have any questions, let's kind of go ahead and, I know it's a little bit early, but I don't have a lot else to talk about. So, let's just go ahead and slide right on into the Q&A section of our live stream. No questions? Okay, so somebody asked about the mini moto blackout. Okay, we are going to have more all black standard modals and and pocket modals. That's going to be a color scheme in aluminum anyway, that we keep on hand. I just need clips. No, I don't. I need parts machined. I'm waiting on parts to be machined so that we can get those back. So to answer either of the two people that brought that up, those will be back. Those colored ways, the all black anodized aluminum is going to be a color that we keep in stock as often as possible. Like, they might be out of stock for a little while. We'll bring them back as soon as we have the parts available. Retro, if we do bring, when I was talking about the reactor earlier, the Starliner fountain pen would be the fountain pen version of the reactor. So if we end up bringing back the reactor pens, that fountain pen would come back. We would just potentially modify it so that it took a number 6 nib and not a number 5 nib, but would, generally speaking, have a similar shape. Might just be a little bit bigger in diameter, maybe a little bit longer, but probably not, than the current form. Any thoughts on a holder for pencils that would be less likely to break leads? Yeah, I don't know how we would accomplish that. If we bring back the 4K and the 8K, like, those are lined with foam, so I feel like those are the only ways that we could potentially do that. So I don't know, Bob, how we would accomplish that. It's definitely not something that we could potentially think about. With a re-release of the 4K and 8K is even getting thicker, maybe not thicker, but firmer foam for the bottom. So using neoprene foam for the bottom, just like the foam is for the inserts. That way it's even more of a cushion than the open cell foam that we currently use. So that's a possibility of something that we could do. Brian, you can send those to our main address. It's I'll just type it into the chat. And then just put my name on it, like attention Paul, or just Paul Bennett, whatever. Yeah, I feel like if we were to go forward with resurrecting that, we might look at doing a neoprene foam on the bottom anyway, and not using the closed cell foam on the bottom. I think we did that initially because of the cost. It was significantly cheaper when we first made that, but then they changed both the places that we get foam, that we've gotten foam made from, have changed our pricing, and the closed cell foam is pretty close in price to just getting a strip of neoprene foam for those. So yeah, we might, I don't know, we'll figure it out. Again, in the event that we bring the 4K and the 8K back, that would be something we would do. I don't know how we would make a pen tray. Wouldn't be like how we would make it, but it would be how we would line it more. Like Bill and I kind of like were thinking about that, like how we would, if we were to machine one out of aluminum, how we would line it, or whether or not we would use like a press-in like insert into it that was made out of Delrin. It would be, if we were to make a pen tray, it would be pretty pricey, I would imagine. But it's not out of the question of something that we could potentially do in small numbers if we had the time. Bill and I would just have to sit down and kind of discuss pricing and, if it makes sense and how we would accomplish it. All right, let's see. Brian talking about wooden pencils, that green foam. Yeah, I've considered using that foam too. The only problem with using that foam that is used for that stuff is it degrades over time. And so you would have to replace it. And so I wouldn't want to use something like that. Hello, Carol. Pros and cons. Ian asks, pros and cons of cubes made out of brass and copper. I'll go over this. I've answered this question, it feels like a gazillion times now. Neither brass nor copper is made in a size off the shelf. Is extruded, turned into, formed at a mill that makes raw, machinable C360 brass or tellurian copper. Nobody makes sizing that the size of brass and copper rod. It's bars, actually. Bars that we would need to manufacture brass and copper cubes out of. So every time we have to make an order for that, we have to custom order it. On top of the fact that it is already extremely expensive, just the raw material in that size. Like if you look at the largest size round rod of brass, I don't know what it is now, because it's in like foot pounds of like the pricing is in foot pounds. And once you're that big a size, one cube out of brass is like 5 pounds. And so it's like $27 a foot pound. So you're looking at like 2 cubes, 10 pounds worth of material out of that. So the cost, one, that's the main thing is like we have to buy that. We'd have to have a rod made. Or a bar made. So the last time we ordered a bar of brass to make brass cubes out of, we ordered a bar that would make us 25 cubes. Post-processing, after we machine them, due to immediate damage in terms of people not paying attention, we had 6 that were damaged to the point where we could not sell them. They had big dings in them. And then we had 19 that we were able to sell the last time we made the brass cubes. And they're at that time, which I believe was like 2016 or 2017, I believe we priced them at $395. The current, if we were to do that now, based off the last time Bill priced it, they would be over $500, not including shipping. So the same price, it would be a little bit cheaper than a 99 pen than a mega cube would be for a brass cube. We have not even been able to find somebody that would do the tellurian copper recently just to make one of those out of copper. Part of the reason that we did the 4Ks and 8Ks was so that we could add copper and brass accents without it being exceptionally more expensive. So yeah, just the sourcing and the cost of those, it's just not something that we can do. And, we can't tie up that kind of money in 19 brass cubes that might take 2.5 years to sell. Like that's kind of where we're at with that one right now. It's just not going to happen. Carol asks, curious what your go-to ink for fountain pens is. I don't have, I'm trying to think. I don't really have a go-to ink. A lot of the inks that I use, I I'll be real honest right now. I have not used a fountain pen in almost a year now. And I've only cleaned like two of my fountain pens, three of my fountain pens to maintain them. So I'm a terrible fountain pen user right now. I would say just the Pilot Blue is one of the ones that I use the most. And then the other stuff that I use is either what we have, like a bottle of whatever we have. I write a lot. Just if I'm journaling or writing for myself, I tend to use the the red that we have. I can't remember the name of it for whatever reason. And then there's a limited edition Mont Blanc Shakespeare red that I bought like 4 or 5 bottles of. I think it was released, like 7 or 8 years ago. And I bought many bottles of that because I like that red color specifically. It has a really nice red. So that's those are the colors the inks that I use the most. Mara, what about wrapping a cube with a thin sheet of hammered copper? Anything like that would require us to pay somebody else to do that process externally. Not because we don't have somebody here that could do it. Josh is great with doing stuff like that with his hands. I think the bigger answer is the reason that we wouldn't be able to do it is we just don't have the time right now. We're down to just 6 of us. There's only 6 of us that are here currently that work full, and we all are just busy all day long. So it would not be something that we could accomplish all of our other tasks. We would probably have to pay somebody else to do it, and then means finding somebody, and then getting the right look and the right feel. So it's just not something that we would definitely put more time and effort into finding a way to modify, to make something or modify something or come up with a completely different pen holder that would feature brass and copper in it. Rather than potentially do something like that. Yeah, I kind of feel like, I don't know, like I don't, it's not, there's a lot of maintenance that's involved in using fountain pens, and a lot of time and a lot of, I like fountain pens. I love my Vertex fountain pens. But it's a lot of like intentionality. You have to be really intentional. I feel like if you're a fountain pen user, and just lately, I just don't have the ability to be intentional with the writing instruments that I use. I need something that's going to be immediate and effective, which is why I've moved to using, for a long time, I moved to using pencils. And then once we had the modal, and now I just use the modal. Like, it's fast and easy and accomplishes what I need to do the majority of the time. Like, I have not been journaling as much. And even when I do, it's more personal and less for writing. So like, I feel like in order to engage with the writing the way that I do with a fountain pen, because it requires that intentionality, it also requires me to be very present. And so I'm doing a lot of different other styles of writing that I'm not getting as much joy out of writing itself because of what I'm putting on paper. And so if I move back into that space where I'm writing for that part of writing is present, then I would probably get my fountain pens out and clean them and write with them again. But right now I'm just not in that place right now where I would do that. So All right. Would you run a brass if you received enough pre-orders up front? If the answer were mine to answer, I would say yes, Chris. However, the answer is not mine, and I don't make the decisions based off of pre-orders. Pre-orders are solely made. The reason we don't do pre-orders is because Bill does not like to do pre-orders. Because Bill does not like to have anybody's money for any amount of time other than the 5 or 6 or 7 days maximum before you're receiving a shipping notice and the product is on its way to you. He doesn't like that kind of, we don't like that business. He doesn't like that business model. And even when we did Kickstarters, that's one of the reasons that we've moved away from Kickstarters, is just that kind of uncomfortability of, I have your money, but you don't have the product yet. And yes, the promise of the product is there, but there are plenty of people and times and businesses and places that have been allowed to keep the money and not present the product. So, and we don't ever want to be in a position where outside things happen. So like a perfect example is if we had done a pre-sale on the reactor pens, like a Kickstarter or a pre-sale or anything like that on the reactor pens, and then had the outcome we had where the first entire batch of pens were completely unusable, and then we had to send more out, and it was like another 7 weeks. No, not 7 weeks, because we had to manufacture more. It was like another 3 months before we got those back. That puts us, the business and the customer, in a very uncomfortable place of possible contention, and that's just not something that Bill likes to do. So it's one of the reasons that we've never done pre-orders. It's one of the reasons why it's one of the reasons why I did a whole bunch of work on a subscription box, and that never came to fruition because that would require some sort of pre-sale. Even if it was like just a couple weeks of pre-sale or even a month of pre-sale, it just wasn't something we wanted to get into. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at on that. Yeah, Retro, I said that earlier. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. We are going to do anodized cubes, so colored cubes. Black is going to be the first one. So, Michael, any more Vertex grip colors coming soon? I don't know the timeline, but yes. The plan is to get the resin ones as soon as possible. That just is us getting with the company that does the, because it's a 2-step process. We have somebody who injection molds those, and then we machine the injection molded parts to do the external finish on them, and then the threads. So yes, but I don't know when. I don't know about a spiral pen. We've talked about doing some work where we do part 3D printed, and then we basically take the 3D printed parts, and then we either find a way to integrate them into a metal pen, they're on the 3D printed parts are on the outside of the metal, almost like a filigree, or vice versa, where there's some elements. I don't want to say like the Helix or whatever that one company is, but because it would be different than that. But it's similar to any pen that's been released that has an external thing, 2 different elements, and one of them is mainly for show. We've talked about that. It takes a lot of time in terms of both designing it and then doing it and all that stuff. So the Ultem Vertexes are the next one we're gonna machine So like we haven't finished the Ultim Decograph run completely on that machine. As soon as the last of those are off that machine is going to be retooled and reprogrammed to do the Ultim vertexes. So yes. All right. It's 4 o'clock. I want to make sure that we do the giveaway. So I'm going to do like last call on giveaway signups. Please click the link. I'm going to switch to this so you don't have to watch me doing all kinds of stuff. Please click the link at the top so we can run the giveaway. Let me get this stuff open. Excuse me. Last call. Is there anybody else that needs to fill out the sheet? The giveaway. There we go. Alrighty. It goes without saying that if you add yourself to this sheet more than once, you're cheating. And I'll know. Oh, goodness. Now it's not. There we go. All right. Okie dokie. No worries, Retro. I might not have been very, what's the word I'm looking for? Might not have been very clear in saying that the anodized cubes were going to be, they are initially only going to be black. Testing black is the easiest to do, and we get the most back that aren't bad with black. So we wanted to start with black, and then after that, maybe we'll add colors based off of the results in the black. If they mess the black ones up, then they're definitely going to mess up any of the other colors. It's just goes without saying. If they can do black and get all or even most of them, 95% of them back to us, and they look great, we can sell them, then we'll be willing to send out stuff for other colors. So yeah, so that's the whole thing, is like, we're going to send out some black. Okay, we got the black ones back. Hey, look, we sent out 50, not 50, I think we're going to send 20 out. We sent 20 out, and 19 of them are good. We only have one black one that has some minor streaking issues on it. We'll go ahead and send some out for probably blue. Blue is usually like the next, blue or gray. Those are the two colors that are the next best in terms of getting back good colors. So we'll send out blue and gray if the black come back, and then kind of go from there. All right, so we're going to run the randomizer here. Oh, if I can get to the right page. And we're going to run it a total of 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. There it is. Amanda at letterletter.com. Oh, I just gave your email address out. But that's okay because that's your business email address. So the winner would be Amanda. Ish, your buddy. You can twist her arm and maybe she can give it to you. If you want one of those pocket cubes. All right. What, do we have any kind of last minute odds and ends we need to wrap up? Any last minute questions you guys thought of before we close everything down? You can email me at paul@karascustoms.com with your address. No more questions? All right. Thank you, everybody, for sticking around. Hopefully answered all your questions. If not, you can always email me or post them in the comments or contact us via social media. The June live stream should be a little bit more focused. Zerk machine coffee mugs. You just like to stir up trouble, Eric. Not necessarily focused, but we should have some more. Bill and I are going to spend some time talking specifically about releases the next couple of weeks, and so some of that stuff will get disseminated in the June live stream. So June should be a fun live stream to do. It's also going to be fun because this room is going to be blazing hot by then, but we'll power through. Anyway, thank you guys so much for being here. I really appreciate it. See you guys next month. Be safe.